Article 7, Section 10, Accounting Procedures. The NBA and Players Association will jointly engage an independent auditor, or, quote, the accountants, to provide them with an, quote, audit report and a draft audit report, an interim audit report, an interim escrow audit report, if applicable, which will set forth BRI and total salaries and benefits for the immediately preceding cap year. This is also called the escrow information. The accountants will be renewed annually unless they are discharged by either party during the period from the submission of the audit report to the January 1 of the following year. The, quote, draft audit report is due 2 weeks prior to the final audit report, and the final audit report will be submitted before the last day of the cap year i.e. June 30th. If the accountants fail to submit by June 30th, that final audit report, then they'll prepare a, quote, interim audit report, and this is going to be the best estimate of BRI total salaries and benefits for the preceding cap year, and also the escrow information. The interim audit report shall include all of the aforementioned, and also a written agreement by the NBA and Players Association that they are not in dispute of any of that information. With respect to BRI and total salaries and benefits that have not been completed by the accountants or are the subject of a good faith dispute, that information should also be submitted in that interim audit report, as well as escrow information that is in a good faith dispute. The accountants will submit a final audit report, including the description of the differences, and the audit report shall not be deemed final until the parties have confirmed in writing that they are in agreement with all the disputes with respect to that report and have finally resolved those disputes via the dispute resolution procedures provided in this agreement. If at the end of the audit report challenge period, the accountants have not submitted or can't submit a final audit report because there are disputes or claims that have not been resolved via or are pending via Article 32, Section 9C, then they will, within 5 business days, complete within 5 business days of the audit report challenge period, they'll complete an interim escrow audit report that will include the information in the interim audit report as adjusted or amended so it reflects any final determinations made by the system arbitrator or the appeals panel. The sole purpose for which any interim escrow audit report is to be used under this agreement is to perform or form the basis for the calculations to be made via Section 12. Each team and the NBA shall submit a report to the accountants that set forth BRI, team salaries and benefits for such salary cap year on forms agreed upon by the NBA and Players Association and the accountants. And these are, quote, the BRI reports. The NBA and Players Associations shall agree upon these forms no later than April 1 of each cap year. The accountants shall review the reasonableness of any estimates or revenue expenses, and to the extent the actual amounts of such revenues received or expenses incurred for a cap year differ from such estimates, adjustments shall be made in BRI for the following cap year. With respect to deducted expenses, except for newly deductible international expenses, the NBA, league-related entities, teams, and related parties shall report in BRI reports only those expenses that are reasonable and customary. All the categories of the expenses shall be presumed by the accountants reasonable and customary unless they are found to be grossly excessive. The accountants shall notify the NBA and Players Association if, 1, they have any questions concerning the amounts of revenues or expenses, or 2, they propose that any adjustments be made. The accountants will identify what represents estimates of revenues or expenses, and they will prepare, or in preparing the audit report for the immediately succeeding cap year, This is, quote, the subsequent audit report. They'll determine the actual revenues and expenses received in the prior cap year and include as a credit or debit to the BRI in that subsequent audit report the amount of the aggregate difference between the two, the estimate and the actual. If they discover they've committed an error in computing BRI in the audit reports for either of the two previous cap years, which error resulted in material understatement or overstatement of BRI for either of the cap years, then the amount of those under or overstatements in BRI should be added or subtracted from the BRI with interest, and that's going to be at a rate of 1 year Treasury bill via the Wall Street Journal. And that's going to be accruing from the date of the audit report in equal amounts over the then current and subsequent cap years. In the event that there's a NHL player strike or owner's lockout or, quote, work stoppage, resulting in the cancellation of all or part of any NHL season, which results in a refund being made to luxury suite holders, premium seat license holders, or to purchasers of fixed arena signage and or naming rights in arenas where both NBA teams and NHL teams play, then the revenues shall be determined as if such refunds were not made. If the work stoppage continues for a second year, then the NHL revenues shall be deemed to be the amount included for the prior year. Section 11, Players Association Audit Rights. Team Audits. The Players Association has the right to have their own accountants, or the, quote, Players Association accountants, to audit the books of up to 10 NBA teams, quote, the first audit. Provided, however, that the review shall be limited to one revenue item of equity transactions and two expense items, in either case that have appeared in BRI reports. In the event that the NBA disputes the proposed adjustments or such proposed adjustments, they shall be deemed to be disputed adjustments, and that's if for some reason their accountants find some type of dispute in those reports. In addition, in the event that the first audit disputed adjustments in excess of $8 million are resolved in favor of the Players Association, the Players Association will then have the right that season to have their accountants audit up to an additional 10 NBA teams for the same cap year. And this is, quote, the second audit. And if in that second audit there are additional disputed adjustments in excess of $8 million, then all remaining NBA teams, they are allowed to go ahead and audit. The amount of any and all disputed adjustments that are resolved in favor of the Players Association will be added to the BRI in the cap year in which the resolution is reached. League audit. The Players Association will have the right to audit the books and records of the NBA, properties, media ventures, and other league-related entities associated with generating BRI, provided, however, that such audit will be limited to one revenue items and two expense items. The amounts of any and all league disputed adjustments that are resolved in favor of the Players Association shall be included in BRI. And in the event that such league disputed adjustments are resolved in the Players Association's favor, the accountant shall be directed to correct such expense misallocations and or miscategorizations in the remaining cap year covered by the agreement. If upward or downward adjustments are made in connection with a Players Association initiated audit, then adjustments to BRI in respect of the same item can also be made for revenues or expenses related to the preceding cap year, if applicable. Bilateral adjustments. The NBA may propose BRI adjustments with respect to any team audited by the Players Association, and any adjustments that are ultimately resolved in favor of the NBA shall be deducted from BRI in the cap year in which the resolution is reached. Audits conducted by the Players Association must be noticed within 90 days of the final audit report. Any proposed adjustments by the Players Association and NBA relating to team audits need to be resolved by April 30th. and each party will provide its proposed adjustments by March 25th. Section 12, Escrow and Tax Arrangement. Definitions. Adjustment player. This means every current or former player included in a team's team salary, every player who is excluded from a team salary via Section 4H, and every two-way player that is paid a two-way NBA salary. Aggregate compensation adjustment amount. This means the lesser of the aggregate salaries and benefits adjustment amount and 10% of total salaries for such cap year. Total salaries shall be increased by the amount that is included in benefits. It's going to be the lesser of the two. Aggregate compensation adjustment amount shortfall means the amount by which the amount received by the NBA from the escrow agent with respect to a cap year is less than the aggregate compensation adjustment amount. Aggregate salaries and benefits adjustment amount means the lesser of the overage and 10% of total salaries and benefits for such cap year. Audit report challenge period means the period beginning with the date of an interim audit report issuance and ending on the last date by which all challenges thereto are resolved. Deduction date means each of the 12 semi-monthly payment dates from November 15 through May 1 provided in paragraph 3 of the uniform player contract. Designated share means with respect to a cap year, the amount set forth in Section 12B(3). Escrow Agent. For the purposes of Section 12, the escrow agent identified in the salary escrow agreement. Escrow amount means for an adjustment player, the sum of the player's base escrow amount plus the performance bonus escrow amount plus the trade bonus escrow amount. The base escrow amount means for an adjustment player, 10% of the adjustment player's salary. And for the purposes of calculating an adjustment player's base escrow amount, a player's salary shall exclude all performance bonuses included in salary. The salary of a player under a 1-year contract making the minimum player salary shall include the portion that is reimbursed out of the league-wide benefits fund. The salary of a player under a rookie scale contract whose compensation under his contract is increased shall include rookie scale conforming increases that are reimbursed out of the league-wide benefits fund. With respect to a two-way player, then his salary shall only include the two-way NBA salary. Performance bonus escrow amount means for an adjustment player, 10% of the performance bonuses earned, and the trade bonus escrow amount means for the adjustment player whose contract contains a trade bonus with respect to a cap year in which the player's contract is traded during the period following the conclusion of the team's season through June 30th, 10% of the trade bonus that is included in salary. Escrow schedules means the schedules prepared by the NBA with respect to each cap year setting forth the base escrow amount. When calculable following the conclusion of the applicable regular season, the performance bonus escrow amount. When calculable, the trade bonus escrow amount, and the dates when all aforementioned amounts are to be deducted from the player's compensation and or delivered to the escrow agent. Individual compensation adjustment amount means for an adjustment player, the amount calculated following the conclusion of the cap year by multiplying the aggregate compensation adjustment amount for that cap year by a fraction. The numerator is the adjustment player's salary, and the denominator is the sum of all adjustment player salaries. For the purposes of calculating the fraction in the preceding sentence, a player's salary shall include all performance bonuses excluded from salary, but actually earned, and exclude all performance bonuses included in salary but not actually earned. The salary of a player under a 1-year contract making the minimum player salary includes the portion that is reimbursed out of the league-wide benefits fund, and for a rookie scale contract, the same. the rookie scale conforming increases the portion of that is reimbursed out of the fund. And with respect to a two-way player, the salary shall only include the two-way NBA salary. Individual shortfall adjustment amounts means, with respect to each contract that is amended, the amount that the compensation otherwise payable in accordance with that contract shall be reduced via Section 12E2. New benefit adjustment amount means the difference between the aggregate salaries and benefits adjustment amount and the aggregate compensation adjustment amount. Overage means the amount, if any, by which total salaries and benefits for a cap year exceed the designated share for that cap year. Performance bonus deduction date means, with respect to an adjustment player, the earlier of the date that any performance bonus earned by the player during the applicable cap year is paid to the player via his contract, or the day following the date of the last game of the NBA Finals during that cap year. It's going to be the earlier of the two. Salary escrow agreement means the escrow agreement in the form agreed upon by the parties to be entered into with the escrow agent. Tax level means, with respect to any cap year, an amount that will be calculated using 3 steps. Step 1, compute 53.51% of projected BRI. Step 2, subtract projected benefits. And step 3, divide the result in step 2 by the number of teams scheduled to play, excluding expansion teams during their first 2 cap years. In the event that projected BRI for any cap year in which one or more expansion teams is scheduled to play in its second season, plus projected local expansion team BRI for that cap year, multiplied by the applicable percentage of projected BRI, less projected benefits, divided by the number of teams scheduled to play, including the expansion teams, exceeds the tax level calculated in that 1, 2, 3 step process. The tax level shall equal the amount calculated here that I just said. The tax level for a cap year will be in effect commencing on the first day of the cap year, i.e. July 1, and will continue through and including the last day of the cap year. In the event that the audit report for a cap year has not been completed as of the last day of the moratorium period immediately following the end of the cap year, and the NBA and Players Association have not reached an agreement on projected BRI and projected benefits, then the tax level for that immediately preceding July 1 will be calculated using interim projected BRI instead of projected, estimated BRI instead of the actual BRI, and estimated benefits instead of benefits for all the purposes and the adjustments, including the adjustments. In the event that the interim audit report has not been completed, then the tax level for that preceding July 1 shall, until it's completed, be an amount that would have been the tax level for the preceding cap year had projected BRI or interim projected BRI of the preceding cap year included with respect to the NBA's national broadcast, national telecast, or network cable contracts, the rights fees, or other non-contingent payments stated in the contracts for the season following the season covered by the preceding cap year instead. In the event that the tax level is based upon an interim audit report for the prior cap year and BRI and benefits in the audit report for the prior cap year are different from those in the interim audit report, then such difference in the tax level shall be debited or credited to the tax level for the subsequent cap year, except that with respect to 2023-2024 cap year, if either the NBA or Players Association exercises the option to terminate the agreement following the 2022-2023 cap year, any such differences will be debited or credited for the current salary cap year in all such cases with interest. In the event that total salaries and benefits are less than the designated share, then the tax level for the subsequent cap year shall be increased by the amount of the shortfall divided by the number of teams in the NBA. If there is an overage, then the tax level for the subsequent cap year shall be adjusted as follows. If the overage is equals to or is less than 6% of total salaries and benefits, then no adjustments shall be made. If the overage is more than 6% of total salaries and benefits, then you're going to use that 7-step process to calculate the tax level on pages 245 through 246. Trade bonus deduction date means, with respect to an adjustment player, the earlier of the date that any trade bonus earned by the player during the applicable cap year is paid to the player via his contract, or the June 30th of such cap year, the earlier of the two. Compensation adjustment rules. In the event that there is an overage in any cap year, the contracts of all adjustment players shall be amended such that the aggregate compensation otherwise payable to all the adjustment players shall be reduced by the aggregate compensation adjustment amount. The new benefit amount shall be reduced by the new benefit adjustment amount, and the additional benefit amount, i.e., the 1% of BRI for additional benefits, shall be reduced by any remaining overage after applying the reduction set forth in Section 12B1I through II. The compensation otherwise payable via adjustment player's contract shall be reduced by the player's respective individual compensation adjustment amount. The designated share for each salary cap year covered by the term of this agreement shall equal 50% of BRI, provided that the designated share in a cap year shall be increased or decreased in accordance with the following. In the event that BRI exceeds the amount of BRI forecasted, then the designated share shall equal 50% of the amount of the BRI forecasted plus 60.5% of the difference between the BRI for that cap year and the BRI forecasted. And in the event that the BRI forecasted exceeds BRI for the cap year, then the designated share shall equal 50% of the amount forecasted, less 60.5% of the difference between BRI forecasted and the BRI for the cap year. In no event shall the designated share for any cap year be less than 49% of BRI or greater than 51% of BRI. There's a great example of all of that, how to calculate designated share, and that's on page 249. That concludes Article 7, Sections 10, 11, and 12, pages 231 to 249, covering accounting procedures, Players Association audit rights, and escrow and tax arrangement. Happy studying. See you at the top.